Welcome to the 73rd episode of the Nerdom and Other Nonsense Anime Podcast. Today, we are covering the 11th week of the fall 2018 anime season. As always, we include timestamps in the description of the YouTube video and podcast feed if you only want to hear about one or two specific shows, since we spoil literally everything. My name is Bcom, and I really owe it to Kat and Leo for making me continue to watch Golden Kamuy for 2 full seasons, because in the end, I loved it. Even though it's not over yet. And I'm going to give them an extra lock next season and give up my own, because I was so wrong. Also with me are the two just aforementioned assholes. Hello.
Hey.
Yep, here we are.
What are we going to do? Like play rock, paper, scissors to see who gets Bcom's lock?
I prefer a wrestling match.
Ooh, fight to the death.
Oh, God.
Are knives allowed?
Even if you get a lock,
Yes.
I don't think there's much use for it next season, so it's pretty small.
Well, you
Yeah,
might
next
be right.
season's light. It's interesting.
I'll just, I'll go ahead and forfeit now and give it to Kat.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
How chivalrous.
Yeah. Yeah. Chivalrous. That's what I'm doing. I'm not afraid or nothing. Yeah. Come on.
All right, so let's talk about some of the nonsense we got up to this week. Leo, do you want to start it off?
Yeah, so I went to the movie theater and watched Aquaman.
Ooh.
No. That's not ooh.
What, you didn't like Khal Drogo as Aquaman? Was he not like the best Aquaman ever?
You mean Jason Momoa or whatever how you
Yes.
say his name?
Yeah.
I love him. He's fucking awesome. But just wait to rent it, if you really want to see it. I didn't find it particularly entertaining. And because it's like a lot of it's like set underwater and shit, it relies heavily on CGI. And but some of it would look kind of cartoonish at times.
Okay.
And that kind of clashes when you would go back to like them being on land a little bit. And I was sitting there and I had the legit thought of, did I miss a not Marvel, DC movie at some point? Because I really felt like I was missing something, but no, I was not.
So how hot was Aquaman? Did they do a close up of his chest?
The important question.
Was it glistening?
Yeah, I mean he was always wet, so everything was always glistening.
Underwater, of course, it's all glistening all the time.
Well, even when they're on land, they've just come out of the water or something. But not only that, whoever his love interest was, she was hot, and there was definitely lots of close-ups on her chest. The world building I didn't find good at all. There's it's really crazy. There's 7 different species / factions of these Atlantis people, but it really only focuses on 2 of them. And it leaves the others with just a little bit of screen time and a bare minimum of backstory. Some of them look legit interesting. But then towards the end of the movie, it totally went all Raiders of the Lost Ark and Land of the Lost at the end. And I was like, are they trying to pay an homage to something? Yeah, I mean, if you want action, it's there, but the story was fine. I didn't think it was the greatest. It was I think it was kind of a mess.
Okay.
Yeah. Wasn't
Kat,
too impressed.
Was there anything you got up to this week that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I went to Florida. Saw lots of palm trees.
How was the weather?
It was fucking warm. Okay, so I had this weird experience. I woke up in the morning and it was 5:30 in the morning because I have a terrible habit of waking up at 5 every fucking morning because I go to work. And I looked and I was like, what the fuck is this? Why is there light in the room? What's happening? And I didn't realize that in Florida, it is bright outside at 5:30 in the morning.
Okay.
I thought that there was a problem or that there was an extra door in the room that I didn't know about when I went to sleep. I was like, holy shit, what is this? And I went up to it all cautious and I peeked out and I was like, what the fuck? And there's sunlight and I was like, this is not right. Should not be light outside at 5:30 in the morning.
Are all these clocks wrong?
It was terrible.
See, yeah. This is why I could never live down there, Kat. It just feels wrong. It feels completely
it is wrong. It's fucking wrong. It shouldn't be light outside.
Unnatural.
It shouldn't be light outside until at least 7 in the morning. Should not be light at 5:30 in the morning It's blasphemy. It's some sort of Satan trickery is what it is. I don't know what the fuck.
And then there's just like good fruit that like grows on trees, like oranges and key limes, and that's just unnatural too.
And you know what else
fair.
grows there?
Bananas.
Sugarcane grows in people's fucking backyards.
Yeah.
And they cut it down and they eat it like crazy people.
My relatives do the same thing. They would go out and be like, I'm just going to go grab like a key lime and a banana. I'd be like, what? What are you talking about?
It actually was good though. But like,
it was great.
It's insane.
Speaking of insane, I got the best Christmas Eve gift ever. It was High Score Girl, the anime, finally dropped on Netflix. And this is something I'd watched like the first couple episodes of back when they got subtitled. And I was like, all right, this is good enough. I'm going to actually just wait for this all to come out so I can binge it on Netflix and like support it.
Why is it good? Because I ended up dropping the manga because it's just repetitive. It's the exact same thing every chapter.
So I think the anime develops the characters maybe a little bit better. I haven't read the manga, but like it feels more progressive in that, it starts out with a boy and a girl in elementary school. The girl is like this rich daughter of like a rich family who never talks. She just never opens her mouth at all. She's super great at Capcom arcade games like Street Fighter, though, and this makes the main guy like really jealous because all he cares about are arcade games, and this girl beats him like constantly. So they kind of develop like a rivalry and then sort of like a romantic relationship. But then she leaves at one point, and another girl gets introduced who is also actually maybe like one of the best. She's probably the best character in the show. Her name's Hidaka, and she's the blonde one who you might remember, Leo, from the manga.
Yeah. She should
yeah.
definitely get the main character's attention over the other girl.
Yeah.
Because fuck the other girl. She does,
I think. Well, at least I don't know. It's interesting because like they have a more like friendly relationship in a different type of way. But yeah, it's just such a well like put together show, and it's such like a great homage to old Capcom arcade games. Like the excitement that this kid feels when like, oh, Street Fighter 2, the new challenger's like coming out. Like, oh, then there's another Street Fighter 2 coming out. It's like, oh, it's another Street Fighter 2. Like, are they ever gonna make Street Fighter 3, or are they just gonna keep like plastering Street Fighter 2 on every new arcade game they ever make? Like, it's just a funny progression of things that like I totally remember my friends talking about at the time when we were going to arcades and like just playing all of those games. And yeah, it's such a beautiful love letter to those like times in our lives growing up. So yeah, I highly recommend it if you like ever grew up in arcades, or if you love playing like Street Fighter now and want to like feel like what the history of like growing up with it was like it's such a good show for that.
Well,
yeah.
I thought it was slightly. I watched like 2 or 3 episodes of it. I thought it was repetitive and the CG was not good. But I'm glad
CG
you
is
liked
definitely
it.
not good.
I'm glad you liked it.
I liked it despite like the not so great CG and animation for sure. Yeah. It was fun. It's cute. But
It's cute in like that way of like these prepubescent children are like flirting with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing. It's not too bad though.
Yeah, if you don't like girls like I don't know, so like Isaka Taiga from Toradora, who like slap the shit out of their idiot like main character boyfriend type guy, you might not like this because she's pretty violent with him. But look, hey, she loves fighting games. Of course, she's a little bit violent.
Cat, that's why he liked it.
Yeah, that's why I liked it. It's great.
He just put himself in his shoes and he took the beating.
It's like, oh my gosh, this is my every week. I love it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, you guys want to talk about the craziest episode of The Girl in Twilight yet?
Yeah,
Sure.
I guess.
I want to talk about it. So, episode 11, You, the honor student, which was, okay, so the title says you, like Y-O-U, like you, the honor student. I feel like it's supposed to say Y-U, like you, the character, the honor student. I don't know. Maybe not. It just seems weird.
Well, it is a lot about her this episode. So.
Yeah. So Right, this opens with that creepy little emissary Asuka telling normal Asuka, like, she should come with her, because she possesses the appropriate qualities to become one with Twilight. And meanwhile, the other girls break off, going to look for Asuka. Like, Yu is specifically tasked to find Asuka, and the other three are following the signal to the clutter that has appeared nearby. And so it turns out that clutter is the teacher, Kita-sensei. And, like, before the girls can even attack him, he turns into, like, this weird spider guy and sticks them all to a fence with, like, a web on the school's roof.
I liked what he said, though, when he did it.
Do you remember what he said? I don't remember.
He said... He kind of breaks the fourth wall, and he goes, "Why do they always never attack when they do do the transformation sequence?"
Oh, yeah. I thought you might like that,
epic.
actually.
I was like, oh my gosh, someone finally addressed the obvious. Like, I was happy with that.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, when magical girls transform, like, the villains never actually attack them when they're vulnerable.
But I will change this. And I'm like, yes, finally.
So, meanwhile, Asuka asks the emissary why she would want to destroy their world. And emissary girl kind of spouts some bullshit about how the King of Twilight is... like a natural process that oscillates between dark and light, like
that
the
yin
tides.
and yang thing. Yeah.
And clutters are used to assimilate human consciousness into Twilight, basically. And so Asuka's like, that sounds dumb, so I'm going to fight you, because it'll at least slow down the king's plans, if not stop him entirely. Meanwhile, Yu finds Arrow Yu in the park where Asuka lost Kyo. That's where she went to look for her. Mm-hmm. And Arrow Yu tells normal Yu that she must be the world's worst honor student, having no clue where to find Asuka. And she throws her, like, a slightly different type of, like, tracking device. Like, it looks a little bit different from the normal ones that they have, like the cassette players. Mm-hmm. Which shows a second clutter alert, which is where Asuka is fighting the emissary. And Arrow Yu believes, like, they're here for Asuka. Like, they went to Siriuska's world and destroyed it simply because she was protecting the Asuka of this world. And, like, this is where their way to get to her. And so Arrow Yu tells normal Yu that she's the only one who could save Asuka. And so as Yu runs off, she whispers to herself that she hopes that, like, this Yu doesn't have to go through, like, the same thing she did. So she's, like, alluding to, like, probably losing Asuka in her original timeline. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing. So, meanwhile, Chloe, Mia, and Nana, they're tied to chairs in a classroom in what is apparently, like, this illusory prison created by Kita-sensei, the spider dude. And he prepares to teach them a lesson about the truth of this world. And then, in, like, a parallel moment, the emissary who is winning the fight against Asuka tells her if that she comes with her, she'll teach her the ways of the world and maybe even save this world from, getting sucked into Twilight.
You say winning in the fight, but it's Asuka with a fucking stick. Can't do shit against it. I don't even know this. You could call that a fight.
I felt like she was winning. I don't know. Yeah, maybe not. So, Kita, back in the weird classroom prison, pulls out a boombox, and then he, like, transforms the classroom to look like a spider's web that they're actually trapped in. And then he puts in these cassette tapes, right?
Yeah, the part where he's like, this is the real world, bitches. And this is good.
And he basically tells them one by one, like, these are all your personal insecurities. Like, this is what you have learned over the course of this show about yourselves and why it's wrong and why you're going to suck again.
Dude,
like, basically, yeah.
I'm watching this, and I'm like, this clutter has never seen an anime. There's no way in hell do you present the heroes of what their faults are, because they're going to prove you the fuck wrong. Like, this is obvious. You can't do this.
Yeah, like, he tells Chloe, like, you know, you're gonna be alone, just like you feared, like, all this stuff. And, like, with Mia, he tells, like, you're better off just trying to be cute and not be, like, the strong protector you want to be. And, like, Nana, that, like, Nana was, like, pretty brutal. Like, he said, like, that by accepting your stepfather, you've accepted that, like your mother, you won't be able to live without relying on a man. Yeah. And she's like, you're gonna run through more men than your mother. And I was like, wow, okay, that's brutal.
Did you see the part where, like, after she says that, like, her legs, like, she, like, closes her legs, and I was like, what is this supposed to be? Like, I was was a little weird.
That was a little weird reaction, yeah.
I was like, wonder what they're implying there.
Well, I think she's saying, like, I don't want to run through a lot of men. Like, I don't know, that kind of thing.
I don't want a lot of men to run through me.
Yeah. Jesus. Probably felt a little, uneasy after he said all that. So Asuka tells the emissary that if they want her to join them, they need to bring back Siriuska and her world that they destroyed. Like, this is the deal she's, like, willing to make, basically, if they want her. Meanwhile, still trapped in the web, the girls realized Kita was just, like, talking bullshit, and the other girls would never abandon Chloe to be alone, like he said, and Nana can choose whatever type of life she wants to lead, and Mia can make the choice to keep fighting to protect people. And so they realize this, they summon their Twilight selves with, like, renewed determination, and they break free from the spiderweb. And then they turn the tables on Kita real fast, telling him he's a coward, afraid of marrying his girlfriend, and, like, it's like his attitude that he's too afraid to change, basically. Meanwhile, the emissary tells Asuka that she can't bring Siriuska back because it would violate the natural order of things, blah, blah, blah. But she understands this emotion of loss that Asuka is feeling. And the emissary felt the same emotion 10 years earlier when she lost Kyo in her timeline or world line, fragment, I guess they call it. But she accepted the invitation to Twilight where all time stopped for her, and she discarded all of her emotions, freeing her from sadness and regret. And she offers Asuka to come with her to forget her loss. So I guess this begs the question, like, I'm going to ask you guys, like, if you guys had lost somebody, like, who you felt you could not live without, like, would you take this deal to forget about them where, like, time would stop and you would just, like, have the memories of that person, like, wiped, basically? Or, like, you would have your emotions wiped from you. Like, would you ever want that?
Fuck that, no.
Right?
That's really insulting to them. Like,
that's how I feel, too. Like, I understand the argument. Like, I know that, like, some people who've been through traumatic experiences, like, just want to forget about it. So I understand, like, the desire to have that, but I think it's, like, so important to remember it and move through it.
Yeah, I don't know to what degree that would make me feel like, but I mean, I'm going to say no.
Yeah.
So
here Yu finally arrives and, like, yells out Asuka's name, like, just as they're about to, like, grab hands and basically, like, make a deal. Like, and then so the emissary quickly grabs Asuka and builds one of those, like, bubbles of light around both of them before Yu can get to her. And then so, like, Yu is, like, running towards them on this beach, and, like, she's, like, screaming that she loves Asuka more than anything else. And then, like, through the power of love, what looks like a small, like, vinyl record appears in Yu's hand. I was so excited because I was like, she's upgrading from cassettes to vinyl. Fuck yes! Oh, best audiophile. And then in what I thought was, like, one of the best sequences in the series so far, like, Yu transforms and then she enters Twilight where the emissary and Asuka are, and she's got this, like, huge ass bazooka, which is freaking sweet. And
it
so
is cool.
she uses it to take, like, that, like, noisy, like, serpent dragon thing out. And then she also uses it as, like, a rocket hoverboard to fly over to Asuka and grab her. And as they're, like, in midair, Asuka tells her, like, you're a liar for always pretending to be mean to me, like an older sister or something, when you were really always looking out for me. And, like, you were the one who made me feel okay to, like, go on living when I was guilty about losing my little brother Kyo. And then they kind of embrace and they start falling towards the ground upside down, and then they just straight up kiss each other.
Okay,
like,
I was going to say,
woo!
I don't know if I could tell they kissed or not because they, like, got, like, they backed up and took, like, a wider view, but I'm like, they're totally kissing, right?
Right, yeah.
And then, like, at this is at the point where I kind of had to pause it and think about it, and I'm like, I didn't think about it till now, really, about this Yu, but all of them are a little bit like their Twilight selves. So, obviously, Erotic Yu was probably in love with her Asuka and lost her. So, it kind of makes sense that this Yu, canon, is in love with Asuka. And it's just funny because I'm like, you know, this show was kind of waving it in our face the whole time.
Yeah.
And I don't think really we thought about it that consciously, maybe subconsciously a little bit. And I was like, wow, this is the better Yuri show of the season.
It kind of is. I mean, they don't make as big of a deal about it, but they They do it subtly and well. I think that the arrow you like had to kill her Asuka. Because like,
maybe, yeah.
Because she says that cryptic comment about like, hopefully you won't have to do what I had to do or whatever. And I was like, oh, you totally killed your Asuka. That's why you're all weird and different.
I could see that. Yeah, that would suck. I hope something like that doesn't have to happen in the last episode. I'll be really pissed.
It's just neat because like the show's a little bit deeper when I thought it was. It's just really cool when that stuff unfolds, especially when you surprise the shit out of me like that.
Yeah, it was still a little bit surprising, even though like we saw signs of it with Arrow U and like the way that it was handled, like Kat said, where it was very subtle and it just happened. It wasn't like a huge, like ridiculous thing. It was like really interesting. Out
and we're like, they're gay. It was just like, yeah,
exactly, Kat. So the emissary sends Noisies at them once again, but Asuka is able to summon Sirius's blade from like a necklace that kind of like falls off of Yu as they're like tumbling to the ground. And then they fight back to back, and Yu tells Asuka that it's arrogant to feel you have to live to protect the lives of everybody around you, and that Asuka just like focus on living for herself and protecting herself, and that's perfectly fine. And like Asuka's like, Yu, isn't it like a bit arrogant of you to like to pretend you know all of this? And like Yu's like, that's fine. I'm an arrogant honor student. That's who I am. And so yeah, the emissary again sends Noisy at them in a final effort. But like now, Chloe, Nana, and Mia have like arrived in Twilight and help fight them off together. And like their final blow attacks are so good. Like Nana like is like up in the air and just like yells like, "You bitch!" and like summons forth like magical like pink rocks or something, like a railgun. It's ridiculous. And then like Mia whistles for her horse, which transforms into this like gigantic revolver that fires like a huge beam. And like Chloe has like blue beam energy, and like Arrow, you just pulls out that crazy gun bazooka thing again. The combined attacks just like melt the like big noisy thing and just like make it disappear. And then like I love this little moment when they all like they've won, and the four of them just like do cute victory poses back at Asuka. It's really good. And so yeah, the girls tease Yu for a second, asking like, "What in the world you say to Asuka just before?" And like she won't say. And then the emissary's still there, and the girls tell her that like even though she is an Asuka, like from another fragment, they won't hesitate to like kick her ass because she's not their friend. And so like with renewed determination, Asuka though is like, "Hey, is that deal still on the table? Like, will you let me go with you to see the King of Twilight in exchange for not destroying this world?" And like Asuka smiles and says like, "I'll go with you," basically. So yeah, sorry for the long synopsis, but like it was a really jam-packed episode of a lot of exposition and development, which I found really interesting. Yeah, I like this a lot.
Yeah.
And like Leo said, best Yuri show of the season. Better than Bloom Into You. I've been annoying various people by saying that the past like couple days.
I mean, it's not untrue. There are still parts of the show that I get annoyed by, but like it's at least going somewhere, unlike Bloom Into You.
Bloom Into You just seems to almost just be dead in the water. It's not really doing too much.
It has not moved much the past couple weeks, for sure. Like
it's
very,
taking the
very
lazy,
subtle.
It's taking the lazy river route down the season arc. It's like,
speaking
do
of
something.
shows that... Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. Speaking of shows that are jam fucking packed, is that what you're about to say?
Yeah, well, my joke was like, speaking of shows that like, oh, nothing happened, you know?
Oh god,
Golden Kamuy second season.
Yeah, nothing happened this episode.
Oh my god, it's so action packed, like it's hard. So Golden Kamuy episode 23, Overwhelmed, as we were while watching this episode. Fucking hell. So the episode starts with them trying to escape from the jail, like where they were at the beginning. And Tanigaki asks Inker, and then they like switch. Basically, you see them like, "Oh fuck, how are we gonna get out of here?" Then it switches to Tanigaki and Inkerman like out by the river, and Tanigaki's like, "Hey, like, have you been with Tsurumi from the beginning?" And Inkerman's like, "Well, now that this has happened, only Tsurumi can get Noperabo and Asirpa out of jail." And he's like, And Tanagaki's like, well, but then the 7th will get the gold. And Inkerman's like, does it fucking matter who gets the gold? And he's like, women are terrifying. And I'm like,
yeah,
okay. And then I don't know. You see this shot of Tsurumi getting there on his boat in the river, in the Abashiri River, and he basically just starts firing on the fucking prison from the water, and is like, "Oh, we're gonna destroy the prison." And Inkerman and Tanagaki are like, "Oh fuck," and they like go hide. And
they're specifically just taking out the wall because the warden thought they were going to come in through the gates. He didn't expect them to fucking blow away the back wall and come in that way.
He's like, well, you didn't expect it, so that's what I'm gonna do. I love Tsurumi sometimes. He's ridiculous.
Oh, God. And like, I don't know if you have it written down, but like Tsurumi, like he's just like oozing brain fluid out of himself. And it's just so weird.
It's like he's excited.
Yeah, he's like super excited when like his officer yells like fire. He has like a little like moment where he has like brain fluid leak out,
just kind of jizzes out of his head.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Oh, God. But yeah, so one of his men at one point asked Tsurumi, like, what are you gonna tell Central Command when they ask you what the fuck happened in this prison? Like, and he like says locust, and then he explains like in 1882 there's this incident where cannons were used in Japan to disperse locusts. So he's gonna like claim a similar situation happened, and they went upstream to disperse these locusts, and then as they were returning, a riot broke out in the prison, and so they like went nearby to help, and unfortunately everyone was dead. And I love how he's like, no one from Central is gonna give a fucking shit, and they're not gonna come investigate. And then the subordinate is like, well, but if even one person survives from the prison, then it won't work, and they'll figure out what happened. And Tsurumi's like, survivors? And he has like another one of those moments where he's just like looking at the camera, and he looks like a fucking crazy badass. Like
he's like survivors, Nani?
Yeah, I know. And then it's just like more brain food just leaking from his head, and you're just like, oh shit. Like, this guy is insane. And then meanwhile, Inkerman gets buried in rubble from one of the cannon shots. And she's like, Tanagaki, go save yourself. But he like pulls her out of the fucking rubble and like pops all the buttons on his shirt in the process. And it's like obviously a reference to her dream, right?
Yep. It was awesome.
It was interesting. And then Ushiyama also gets stuck in the rubble. And he's like,
I think he jumps in to save them.
Yeah, he helps them, yeah.
Oh, okay. I just saw him get stuck in it. And then he like has this scene where it looks like he's gonna die or something, and he's like, you had better damn be happy together.
Okay, pause right here. Because during this scene, he says that, and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, you survived a house exploding. I don't think a little rubble's gonna stop you.
Yeah, for a second I was like,
I'm really glad he didn't like die there, because that would have been so dumb. Like,
it would have been dumb. I was like, oh, are they killing him off? What? And I was so confused. And then he just like tosses all the fucking rubble off himself, and then he's like, oh, I'm fine. And I'm like, okay.
During that scene, as he's like patting the dust off himself, Inkamar is in the background, and she has the most shocked face ever. If you didn't catch it, go back and look at it, because it's fucking hilarious.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. But yeah, at this point, Tsurumi gets on land, and they have these like things called star shells, and they basically use them as like mobile bombs, and they start like invading the prison and exploding things and just being insane, like on foot, basically. Like they are fucking here.
The star shells are the things that they launch up into the sky to like light up the entire area. That's what the star shells are. The things that they're using to throw like grenades, I think, are like mortar shells that have like little like cloth tied onto them that like they're using as mobile. They're using as bombs.
Yeah, I think they just modified it so that they are able to throw them.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, who knows? They have fucking firepower. The point is, Tsurumi comes on land. He's got like 60 men or something, and they're like invading everything. They're coming for you. They're here. Everyone run.
And Tsurumi's just got like a
hide your
shotgun.
kids.
Like, oh man.
I'm going to make a terrible meme reference from like 2 years ago. Hide your kids, hide your wife. Tsurumi's coming.
Oh my god.
Just saying. Wah, wah. That was lame. Anyway, Asirpa is like, this scene made no sense to me. Like at this point, Asirpa is like outside and she asks someone from the prison if they knew that the Noperabo that they had was a fake. I think it's one of the tattoo guys that like they were using to get into the building, get into the prison. Mm-hmm. And he says like after all the tattoo people escaped, the warden Inudo switched Noperabo out secretly with a decoy.
Yeah.
And then
did she ask Angie Tony?
It might have been him. I can't remember who she was with.
See,
I think it was
issue, like,
Angie Tony, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think she was asking if they knew he had been switched the whole time. Him and Hijikata.
Yeah, because there's some. Yeah, there.
A lot happened. We know.
It's okay. No, it's insane. It's like all this stuff is happening. Like duh, and I'm like, oh, and I'd have to like pause and write down, and oh fuck. At this point, Hijikata comes along and is like, oh, Asirpa, there you are. You're fucking coming with me because I'm kidnapping you. And she's like, well, I'm not surprised.
Well, yeah, and he wants to take her to her father, right? Like, because this is her only chance, basically, to meet the real Noperabo. But
yeah, and he thinks like if he has her, Noperabo will tell them where the gold is. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, Tsurumi and Sugimoto basically meet up in the middle of the prison, and there's like a standoff, but that crazy fucking twin, the one with the bonnet thing on his head, I call him like, it looks like a bonnet, it does. He like just starts randomly firing and acting like an insane motherfucker, basically. And he like shoots the fake Noperabo that Sugimoto was trying to use as a hostage. And like he's like, don't move or I'll shoot. And like this fucking twin is just shooting, and he like shoots the fake one in the head, and Sugimoto's like, fuck, he's dead. And he's like, what would you have done if it hit him? And it's just ridiculous. Oh my gosh. And then, okay, I think his name is Ushiyama. I wrote down Mole Dude. The guy that
everybody knows what you mean by Mole Dude.
Yeah. He like kills the warden Karakura. And like he shoots him fatally. And then as he shoots him fatally, he unlocks all of the cells, setting free these like 700 prisoners inside the prison. He's like, hey, what are you going to do now?
Like the lieutenant.
Well, it's like Chief Katakura or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, you know, he's like some fucking. There's too many
like
people
one of
in
the
this.
head honchos.
Yeah,
but the head honcho's the warden.
True. Yes, the warden is elsewhere at the moment. Yeah.
I don't know. I just know he's important, and he died, and he set all the prisoners free.
Which was awesome. Chaos.
It was kind of awesome. And they all run and attack Tsurumi's men. And so it's like 60 versus 700. And I'm like, oh, Tsurumi's fucked. But then I forgot, like, they all have weapons and the prisoners don't have weapons. So it's like an interesting little.
Specifically trained to kill. So
yeah. So it's an interesting little standoff. Who knows how
this will turn out.
Yeah. But it's intense. I was like, oh, I'd like to see a video of that. Meanwhile, Crazy Bonnet Twin goes to find Sugimoto as they escape. That's just his name now. I don't give a shit if he had a name originally. His name is Crazy Bonnet Twin.
I think it's like Nikaido or whatever. Yeah, I didn't remember his name. I had to look it up.
And so basically the Sugimoto and the gang talk about how... Basically they explain about how... This is the part where I forgot. They talk about how Hijikata had planned on using like the chance to separate Sugi and Asirpa because he needed Asirpa for the plan and to get the gold from her father, etc., etc. Yeah. We all kind of know, but they clarify in case there's like some dumb people watching, basically. Yeah. Only Shiraishi. So they'd escape like underneath the prison. But after they've actually escaped, they can't get out from underneath the prison because it's like this underground tunnel. So only Shiraishi is able to actually get back up out of there because he can dislocate his shoulders. And Sugimoto's kind of like, well, fuck, I can't get up there. Go get Asirpa and rescue her. I'll try to figure out how to get out of this fucking tunnel thing, and we'll meet by the front gate. So Sirpa and Hijikata, meanwhile, are go to this chapel where they think Noperabo is being hidden. Sirpa takes a chance and manages to get free and run. Then she meets Killer Ranka, who grabs her. And then they meet up with Shiraishi. There's a lot of, like, people meeting up and agreeing, like, to separate and then meet up other places.
Yeah.
And, like, I feel like if this happened in real life, people would get way more lost than they get in this episode. Because, like, have you ever tried without cell phones to meet up with your friends' places? It never works. You say, like, we're going to meet up at this place. Things happen. Like, there's too many of these, like, we'll meet here. This would not have gone the way it went. I'll just say that. I don't know. Killer Ranke is like, I'm going to go save Sugimoto. And then Asirpa's like, well, you should go get him, and then we're going to meet by the chapel. So tell him that and come meet us. And I don't know, she gives him this, like, knife thing as he leaves to give Sugimoto so that if he meets Noperabo without her, Noperabo will help him. I think it's, like, the knife that he made, like, her dad made, right?
Yeah, it's called, like, a Makiri or something, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Kyoto Ranke basically sees Sugimoto and is like, oh, I'm going to get you out of here real fast. And he, like, just puts a grenade on the wall, and Sugimoto's like, fuck! But they get out. It works. And Shiraishi but Kyoto Ranke basically is like, oh, let's go to the chapel. But then this gets so confusing.
It does,
but
yeah.
Sugimoto is basically like, no, I'm going to go by myself to go get Noperabo. You wait by the main gate. And he goes. Right. And I don't understand why Killer Ranke was like, okay, and just went off. Like, wouldn't he just at least go with
wouldn't he just, like, help him? Like, yeah, I didn't get that either.
It was weird. I don't know. Sugimoto, like, goes off towards the chapel. He meets up with the crazy bonnet twin who tries to kill him, and, like, Sugimoto manages to stab the twin in the face. Another face injury. I'm not even keeping track of how many face injuries there are at this point, but there's a fucking lot.
No, Sugimoto gets stabbed through the cheek.
Yeah,
because he gets snuck up on, and, like, he gets like the bayonet stabbed like into his mouth and out the side of his cheek, and, like, it breaks off from the gun, I think. And
then the whole fight was brutal.
And then they have, like, just this disgusting scuffle.
Yeah, because Sugimoto's like fighting with the knife through his jaw, and he, like, shoots Nikaido's hand point blank, which, like, blows it off, and then, like, he grabs his, like, leg and starts beating Nikaido to death with, like, half of his own, like, right leg.
He's got the shotgun
him with
leg.
His own fake leg. I did like that.
Yeah, he gets wounded from the shotgun blast, and then he beats him with the leg. It's crazy.
I remember there's also a point where someone gets shot in, like, the leg or, like, the ankle or something, and there's, like, a piece of flesh that goes, like, flying off, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, like, calm down.
Yeah, there was, like, also a guard that Tsurumi shot in the face with a shotgun at one point, and his face just, like, exploded in, like, a geyser of blood, and I was just like, holy shit, this is ridiculous.
This episode especially, like, they're trying to tie up a lot of different things, and it just became chaos.
One of my thoughts during that was, I was like, oh, we haven't had face wounds for a while. They're back. Hell yeah.
But yeah, so while Sugimoto is beating this guy to death with his fake leg, like, Hijikata is investigating the chapel, and the guy named Inudo, who I think is actually the warden, right?
Yeah, that's the warden.
Yep. So I also call him Mustache Guy. He kills Hijikata's subordinate, and then Hijikata and him fight, and that's a dramatic fight too.
Yeah.
Then it once again moves. That's another thing about this episode. They move between different groups of people so fucking fast, and you're almost getting whiplash. You're like, holy fuck. Just calm down.
It promotes the idea that it's, like, chaotic, like, and, like, everything's going down at the same time. So I like that. Yeah. I like that technique of cutting between everything.
I get it. But yeah, so meanwhile, Killer Ranke, Ushiyama, Shiraishi, Inkerman, and Tanigaki all meet up by the gate. They're like, oh, yo, saw y'all guys here. Inkermont climbs the ladder to get a better view of all this chaos. We get this shot of Sugimoto crawling injured towards the chapel and meeting up with the real Nopperabo, who has blue eyes. And that's like the last thing you see before the episode ends.
Hype.
So, he has blue eyes, which is not a guarantee of parentage, by the way. Like, there's lots of people in the world who have blue eyes. What if that was what they did on, like, what's that show where they're like, you are the father?
Well, the interesting there is
Jerry
in
Stiller.
Japan, and blue eyes are only common to the Ainu. So that tells us he's Ainu.
No, they're not even common to Ainu. Like, they're because I think at one point they commented that, like, Ainu don't usually have blue eyes. The only reason that he has blue eyes is because he's like, what, European?
Part Russian,
or,
actually.
Yeah, Russian.
Part Russian or something, maybe?
Yeah, like Sakhalin Russian.
I get that. But all I'm saying is, like, it's not like on Mori they ever just have the guy open his eyes and they're like, oh, he has the same eye color. He's the father. Like, you know. Yeah, so.
And, like, I'm just looking forward to that conversation between Asirpa and her father. Like, I'm sure it's going to happen. So, like, I really want to see how that goes down.
Hopefully this faceless guy can say more than...
Well, I mean, I guess he has to be her father because, like, the whole first season, they dramatically show him in the background with his, like, big eyes. So there has to be something there, I guess. I don't know.
I think so. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if Inkermart gets to talk to him as well. But yeah.
Yeah,
should we move on to
Justice
Justice Chaotic show?
Actually,
there was one funny scene that we skipped.
Yeah.
It was in your notes, Bcom.
Yeah, so there's that one, like, light moment where, like, Sugimoto and Shiraishi are still in the prison cell, and, like, the fake Nopperabo starts going, like, hey, hey, hey. He's, like, pointing to, like, they're like, what are you talking about? And he's, like, pointing because the cell is on fire, and then, like, Sugimoto and Shiraishi just look back at it and we're like, hey, hey, hey. It was good. I like that a lot.
It was good. Just this cute little scene in the middle of just all this fucking chaos getting ready to go down. It's so great.
It was cute. It was.
Speaking of chaotic shows, something's going on with their production because, as a little note, episode 12 isn't airing until January 8th.
In Japan, at least. So I don't even know when it's going to simulcast on Crunchyroll. Could be a little bit after that.
Right. So we won't be able to cover it until next season. Hopefully you guys don't pick it up. Won't be me.
We'll definitely talk about it, at least in impressions. But yeah, I think episode 11 of Run with the Wind is going to be the last one we cover for a few weeks at least. So yeah.
It's looking like it, Yep. It is called Overflowing Drops. The show wastes no time and shows us that the twins and Musa have gotten official times and that Takashi and Yukihiro still have some ways to come. This is like the first minute. Just like, they don't stop. Afterwards, we get like a pep talk from Haiji who tries to make the two feel better because everybody has different strengths when it comes to running. Yukihiro is his usual grumpy self about it all, but, you know, we expect it now.
Yeah.
It also must be like monsoon season because they got rained on during their track meet and also during practice the next day. Where they like wear these ponchos to stay dry, but like they trap in the heat, so it's like making them miserable. I don't know why they're just not running in the rain. That's what we always did when I ran in middle school and high school.
Because they don't want to get sick? Because running in the rain
I was laughing
gets you
so
sick?
hard that, like, the cure to Japan's, like, rain death disease is just wear a raincoat, and then you're totally fine. This is really funny to me.
You don't get sick from being rained on, Kat, though.
Well, they do in Japan, Leo. We've
In Japan,
established
Well,
this.
apparently.
don't you know that in Japan they think that, like, if you get wet for a second, then you'll die of like
You'll be
fever.
dead.
That's the way it works in anime.
I really enjoyed running in the rain because it's kind of refreshing you and taking some of that heat off.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
like, whenever it rained during like practices or meets, you know, everybody was actually a little bit happy.
I just didn't like running on, like, concrete or roads during the like when it's raining because, like, you could slip very easily, and I hated that. But otherwise, I really enjoyed it. You're right.
Yeah. So the twins and Musa start to worry about Takashi because he seemed kind of down after the meet. But then the twins decide it's okay because he has a girlfriend.
Yeah.
But somehow
Like, oh,
that
he's fine.
just
He's got a
makes it all better. I don't know.
Right. That's exactly. But then they're like, or does he? They aren't so sure anymore and think he might have pushed himself so hard he imagined he had a girlfriend.
That's just odd.
Possible.
Good news. Akihiro seems to have lost some weight, so good
He had
for
like
him.
a little fist pump moment on the
I
scale.
know,
That
he's
was
like,
cool.
whoa, like he shows him on the scale, and he's like, yeah, it was good.
Yeah, but in the bad news, it seems Haiji is like favoring his non-injured leg, and
Yeah.
you guys still treat both legs equally, no matter what injuries it is. And then like Kakarou, he's at the convenience store and he like buys a running magazine, and inside is an article with the Fujioka guy, and he has like an interesting quote in the article about how he thinks there's some hidden runners out there, and he'll be waiting for them to show up at the big event. And the guys kind of think he might be talking about them, possibly.
Mhm.
And then they have this just brief discussion about doing another event to help prepare more and like Kakarou suggests like the inter-college event. So
Yeah.
there was that. The guys end up making like a website for their fan club and praise Shindo for still going to like all his classes and stuff all the time. And then he meets up with his girlfriend the next day, who breaks up with him because her main reasoning was he seems to be focused on other things and he's spending his time on something else.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you asked me who is wrong in this situation. It depends on how long they've been dating, in my opinion. Because when you first started dating someone, you should be putting a lot of like effort into that relationship to like kind of show them like, I am interested in you, like this is a thing. But like if you've been dating for a while, like a year plus, like there's gonna be times in your life where things are going on and like you have to devote time to those things. You know, you can't just constantly throw all of your energy into your relationship all your life. So it just depends. Like if they've only been dating for a little bit, then I would agree with her. But if they've been dating for a long time, then it's probably for the best anyway, though, because like it just shows that, like, I mean, what if like they had a kid? Like they're not going to be in the future, you know what I mean? They're not going to be able to pay as much attention to their relationship for a while. It's going to suffer, and if she can't handle this, then she's definitely not going to be able to handle like what if his mom dies, or what if he has a promotion at work, or you know what I mean? So
Yeah, I pretty much completely agree with you. Couldn't have said it better. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody can be a bunny girl senpai, you know.
No, not everybody can be a rascal.
yeah.
I'm just saying she would probably still be supportive.
Yes, she would. She absolutely would. Oh, Sasuga bunny girl.
Well, she's too supportive sometimes, though.
Just a
Okay,
bit.
but regardless, Shindo takes out his motions at their next practice by like running another lap, and even though like Haji has called practice over, and just eye-rollingly, everybody also runs an extra lap. I'm just like, give me a break.
Team unity, Leo. Team unity.
Jesus. Yukihiro notices Shindo's running form is a little different than everybody else, and Kakarou helps with fixing it. Shindo also finished the website, and like he gets a lot of praise from the other two, and then they wake up to find that their first comment of support, and they're all just like, you know, super hyped and pumped about it. But then there's also this guy, kind of shady, asking about them at like Hana's parents' shop.
Yeah.
And then he goes and watches their next track meet, which is basically how the episode ends. They also run into Sakaki, who's still being a douche. And I hated this, but this shady guy, the show ends with a close-up of his mouth, and he says something.
Yeah.
And that's it. I'm like, why do you do that? I don't think that's not a cliffhanger.
It's not a good cliffhanger. I hate when shows do this.
I'm annoyed as fuck now. God damn it.
It seemed like he was focused on Kakeru to me. So assuming he's like related to him somehow or something. I don't know. Or like an old coach, maybe. Something like that. It was weird.
I think there's preview shots that make it look like he's an old coach or something like that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
There was like a couple weird things this episode. One that's weird and one that's just like hilarious. It's like one of the weird things, like Musa apparently has like all these like traditional African masks that he's brought to Japan with him, and they're like gigantic. Like there's this weird part where like Joda and Joji like joke around like wearing them in this episode, and I was just thinking like that's so much luggage. I feel like
he had that shipped. He didn't take it with him on the plane, because I don't know how he got through the plane with that shit.
Yeah, like those are huge masks.
I
thought
it was a little
trying to preserve your culture, but man,
I was like, why are they making this guy's room just like an African like paradise? Like, why can't he just have a normal room? I don't know.
Like, or if you're gonna do that, like maybe like make it a part of his character, since apparently it's very important to him. If you're like if you have this stuff all over his room, like have him like talk about it or something. But they don't do that. They just like kind of like joke around by wearing the mask. And I was like, all right, I guess.
The only other time that even comes up was like earlier on when he saw the other dark skinned people at the meet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the only other time that came up.
That's the only other time. Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to talk about was Leo. Did you love those camera shots of Joda and Joji's pelvic muscles as they're like standing up in the baths with Musa? So deep and defined. Oof.
You're asking the wrong person.
That's cat. Oh, it's not your kind of fan service?
Nah.
Oh my goodness.
I was just laughing because like if I had seen this with girls, I would like immediately be ranting about it. Like, so I feel like I have to be like equality, like they're like zooming in on their pelvic bones and stuff, and I'm like, all right, let's calm down here, show.
I mean, I loved every minute of it, so I'm not gonna argue. I did notice a slight drop in animation quality this episode, but it wasn't like huge. It makes me wonder if that's part of the reason that they're delaying. I really
3-week hiatus.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck is going on, but like, if you're gonna have a 3-week hiatus, like tell us why, or we're gonna speculate. So
and we did look before we did this podcast, and we couldn't find anything on it. So
I mean, like maybe Production IG, just as a studio, has like a policy where they give people time off for the holidays. That would be nice. I don't know, but I'm not sure.
Japan doesn't give people time off for the holidays, and you know it.
The only thing they get is Golden Week, and that is it.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait any longer. We need to get to this imouto arc. Rascal does not dream of Bunny Girl Senpai. By far the best arc of any show ever.
So, episode 11 of 13, Bunny Senpai, whatever the fuck. It's called Kaide Quest. That's what the episode is called. So, the
I'll play this video game.
Yeah. The episode starts. Mai has a press conference about the fact that, gasp, she has a boyfriend.
Oh, this was so ridiculous.
And it's like, I know that this is a thing in Asian culture where like idols or like stars on TV have to like pretend that they're never dating anyone because God forbid people's dreams are shattered, you know.
Yeah.
So this picture that someone took of her and Sakura has shattered their dreams, and so she has to have this press conference and apologize for the quote unquote commotion. And at one point she like blushes and gets all embarrassed and tells everyone that like, he is the reason I'm returning to show business, and like begs them not to pry into his private life. And it's all very contrived. And meanwhile, the sister has this notebook and she's writing like goals for the new year on it, which was interesting. You'll see more of that later. Sakura says later that he is the happiest guy in the world as they walk together down the street after the conference. And so she says she likely loves him more than he thinks. And he disagrees that he loves her more. And I'm like, no, she definitely cares fucking more about you than you do about her. Just saying. And Sakura gets a note from Shoko asking to meet him tomorrow. And he is concerned, and like he's concerned about this. Basically, he shares the note with Futaba, and he asks how he should tell Mai about it. And he's like, "What if the situation was reversed? I wouldn't be happy." And Futaba's like, "You know what? This thing is lame, and I'm annoyed, and I'm bored." And so I just have texted everything that we've just talked about to Mai, and she's like, "Coming."
Oh my god, get out of my head, cat! The fuck?
So I thought that was pretty epic.
That was like the ultimate power move by Futaba, though. I'm just going to text all this bullshit to Mai directly.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm tired of being your in-between. Like, you don't even need me. Just talk with her already. I like that. Mai's like, oh, you should have the meeting and then come home and I'll make dinner. And I'm like, what the fuck? Why are you always making dinner at his house? It's not your house. Also, stop making him dinner. I don't know.
What? Come on, Kat. That's a little far. Like,
no, it's not a little far. She shouldn't always have to make dinner
for her boyfriend. It's fine.
She shouldn't always have to make dinner. It's dumb. Anyway,
but he's taking care of his like stupid sister all the time, and he's like, "Look, Kat, he has like 4 girlfriends to take care of. All right, like he doesn't have time to cook. Okay,
he's a busy man.
Poor Sakuta has to do things in his life. It's so hard. You know what Mai has to do? She fucking has a full-time career and has to be a student. Tough shit.
That's true. They could probably order in a couple times.
Yeah,
it would be fine.
Yeah. So. Mai's like, come home and I'll make you dinner because I'm apparently a homemaker now. And
she just continues to be more of a perfect waifu.
She just does it all.
Every episode.
God. She needs to quit. She needs to stop being like bending over backwards for this dude. And meanwhile, Mai says Shoko is slightly intriguing to her as well. And that like, oh, she helped make you who you are. And at one point, Sakuta like goes over to the window and screams out the window that he loves Mai, and like he goes to kiss her as he leaves, and she's like, "Nope, I'm not gonna kiss you because you're about to go meet your ex," which is like, oh, it's so cute. I'm like sickened by their relationship sometimes. I don't know. Anyway, as they're leaving, Kotomi, Kaide's childhood friend, suddenly shows up and is like, oh, are you Kaide's brother? I need to talk to you. And like Sakuta looks at Mai and is like, will you go to the beach for me while I talk to Kaide? Because Kaide's friend, because like as we all know, Kaide is much more important to Sakuta than any fucking thing else in his life. So he goes with Kotome to talk to her at a cafe nearby. Kotome says she still feels guilty about what happened with Kaede when they were in school together, and that when Kaede left school, the bullying became a school-wide problem, because I guess the bullies became bullied themselves after Kaede left, and then they stopped coming to school, and it was just a whole thing. So she asks if she can see Kaede, but he says it's sure to cause quote-unquote confusion. And at the time, it doesn't mean anything, but then later, it's interesting. He goes, at this point, to meet Mai at the beach, and he leaves a note in the sand saying, I have a girlfriend now. And then they head home together.
Wait, what was that in the note even about?
So it was for Shoko if she showed up, because he wasn't willing to wait for her at the beach.
But Shoko then tells him that he didn't leave her the note to meet her there.
Yeah, there is some confusion going on.
That's the
What
thing.
is going on?
So there's the Shoko that we know who with the cat, right? But he has already said that there was a different Shoko that he grew up with that's not the Shoko that we know, even though they look identical. So the idea is that the Shoko that left him the note is the one that he remembers from his childhood, and the one that with the cat, who they later call on the phone, is a different one. That's the idea.
It's
Where
weird.
the hell is this regular Shoko they knew first then?
That we haven't seen her, but she's the one that's in his dreams sometimes. So anyway.
Yep. Like later in this episode, she's in his dream. Like he talks to her in a dream. Yeah.
I think the idea is that like somehow the two are connected and there's some weird shit going on. I'll get into it when it gets to that part. Anyway, they head home together. Mai makes dinner while Sakuta changes and is lazy. Kaede shows Sakuta her list of goals for the year, and they're like all date type stuff with her brother, except one that's
date Oni-chan.
Yeah, basically. Except one that's like, answer phone calls from people other than brother. And I'm just like, oh, come on, we're at this stage. Oh, and also it says go to school. I'm like,
Go to school is like a good one. I like that.
So they all eat dinner together, and Sakuta answers the phone at one point, and Shoko calls. But that Shoko is not the one who left the note saying to meet her. It's the one that came over with the cat, who's younger.
Yes.
So he asked if she left the note in his mail, and she says she didn't. So we are confirmed that they're different. And she also apologizes for not coming lately to the house to see the cat because she says she's been feeling very sick recently. And so you're like, my theory is that, like, you know how Futaba had her copy? Like, this is a copy. Like, somehow the two are copies of each other or something. And, like, as one interacts, the other gets sick or something. That's what something's going on with that.
It's weird.
It has to be. But anyway, after dinner, Mai fucking cleans the dishes. She fucking cooked the meal. She cooked the meal and she cleaned the dishes. That's fucking bullshit. He should have cleaned the dishes. No.
She's just so efficient, though, Kat.
No.
She's so good at it.
She gives that boy way too much leeway. Anyway. Kaede asks if she could answer the phone if Shoko calls again because she wants to practice. And she explains her independence plan to Mai and says, like, oh, if I don't work on this, bro will never get married because, like, the girl he marries will get me automatically and they won't want that.
Yeah. Package deal. Yeah.
Yeah. And Sakura's like, I'm sure Mai won't mind. And Mai's like, I'm glad you're trying. Which to me is like, no, I don't want to fucking take care of your sister for the rest of my life. Like, dumbass. I'm not a saint. Good for her. She should say shit like that.
I don't know. She looks like a saint to me. If you watch her act.
She needs to fucking stand up for herself. Anyway.
She does.
Mai offers to practice on the phone with Kaede. She answers, but then faints. Like, she can't handle talking to someone in the next room.
She, like, immediately gets a fever.
What a fucking pussy. Like, suck it up, Kaede.
She's traumatized.
Oh,
obviously.
boo-hoo. She can't talk to someone literally in the next room who she just was talking to in person. Suck it up. Suck it up, okay? While
she's working on it.
Sakura notices, like, a weird mark on Kaide's neck, and he's, like, concerned. Later that night, Sakura has a dream about Shoko again, like the Shoko that he knew when he was growing up, where she says she hopes each day she is kinder than the day before. And, like, he cries in his sleep before he wakes up. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on with this? Like, what's happening right now? Anyway, then Sakura flirts / works with Koga, because we all know how he loves to flirt with other women. He gets home, and Kaede has answered the phone from Mai. She asks Sakura how Kaede has been and how he is, and tells him that Kaede has some new fucking announcement. And Kaide's like, I'm gonna go outside tomorrow. They try it the next day when Sakura comes home. And there is a good point where Kaede confesses that even though she's afraid to go outside, she's even more afraid of never changing and never going outside. So she's, like, determined to do it. That was a good moment. She kind of freaks out after a few steps and almost doesn't make it. But then Sakura kind of tricks her and she makes it. And then she cries. But she says this because she's happy, but she doesn't look fucking happy.
She's relieved.
So basically this solves her being stuck inside, and then you get, like, a montage of how she gets to go all these other places now because she can go outside, and it's like, look at how awesome it is and all that. Sakura still hasn't told Kaede about her friend, like, wanting to come visit her. Futaba kind of reminds him and is like, you should talk about that with her. Eventually, Kaede goes on the train with Sakura and Mai's sister, and they eat, like, a picnic lunch together. But then she runs into her friend on the beach, and she doesn't remember Kotomi, and I guess she's, like, lost all of her memories.
Yep, amnesia.
Yep.
And that's the end of the episode, and I was like, oh, you did not fucking do that. Like, come on. That's just so cliche.
They've done every other trope. They might as well throw amnesia in there.
Might as well throw in amnesia, just like Zombie Land Saga.
Are they going to start playing? As long as they don't start playing the Amnesia song, like from the anime Amnesia, will be good.
Also, like, that mark on Kaide's neck, like, that looks like a strangle mark, right? Like somebody strangled her or something. It was weird.
I don't know.
It acts. I've seen the next episode. It's more like a rash.
Okay.
Well, don't
Interesting.
yeah. Shh, Leo.
It's not important. It's not important to the plot.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's good. I don't mind.
There's no point in discussing it. It doesn't mean a fucking thing.
Okay.
Okay, that's good.
I'm curious. Yeah, I'm very curious.
But damn, it really makes me want to ruin it now, Kat.
If you fucking do, I will drive up to where you are for real, and I will hurt you, Leo.
All right.
You are the one who told me today to go ahead, and I said you
told
threatened
you to
me last
watch
time
it,
I did.
not to ruin it during the fucking podcast. They're two different things. I said if you want to prep for the next
these two
episode,
continue to kill each
then
other,
you can,
let's take a
so you
short
don't
break.
whine.
Yay!
We'll be right back. Hey, dude, you into anime, manga, and all that radical stuff?
Oh yeah, man, it's tubular.
Then you should totally check out the...
This transmission has been hacked. If you want discussions, debate, reviews, and all in between, you must listen to the Anime Radicals Network at www.animeradicals.com. There's timely reviews, revolutions, mecha, and much more. Find it on iTunes, Google Podcasts, and all podcast catchers. The Anime Radicals Network.
The revolution will be simulcast.
The following is an extract from Reanimator Pod episode 47, Blood, Blood, Blood. Taka discusses Des Irae.
Most of the characters in the show, particularly the villains, have more than one name, like many more than one. For example, the super powerful mage from my synopsis is Karl Kraft, also known as Mercurius, also known as Faust, also known as Saint Germain, also known as Paracelsus, also known as Cagliostro, also known as Copophilia Smudge. Woo! Okay, that last one is a Reanimator special, but the rest are all legit. Like, he actually has those names. How about a few more?
He's got more names?
No, they're other characters. He actually had that many names, though. Wilhelm Ehrenberg is Kazikli Bey, because why not? Valeria Trifa is Christoph Lohengrin, who's a priest and is commonly referred to as Father. Lord Heydrich is also Reinhard, and Teresia is Rhea, but Fujiren, aka Zarathustra, is our main character, and also refers to Rhea as Senpai. So we never really learn her name until other characters start calling her Rhea. But really her name's Teresia, so I don't really know how that adds up. Ugh.
And if you like that and you want to hear more from the Reanimator Pod, head on over to reanimatorpod.com. That's reanimatorpod.com. New episodes are out every Monday.
Don't drop that. Hey, don't drop that.
The Trash Pandas bring you this nugget from another trash can. What happens when brains and bullets discuss episode 2 of One Punch Man?
Pretty much gene splicing heads. They will
Yep.
Yeah, they will splice genes. They have a cyborg gorilla. They have a frog that walks on 2 legs and communicates at long range. Like, they got... You think it? They splice...
The Lion King?
Yeah, they have the lion. They have a f***ing lion. Beast King. And...
Simba.
Yeah, he's f***ing Simba. I don't mean he's f***ing Simba. I mean he's f***ing Simba.
We at Trash Pandas Watch Anime dig through the trash so you don't have to. You can find the Trash Pandas Watch Anime podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter where you'll get live updates from what we do.
And we are back, and I have not been murdered yet, fortunately.
So, surprisingly, you're still alive.
Yeah, I know. And just the irony of the next title of this episode, 23 of Banana Fish, is For Whom the Bell Tolls.
It's good luck.
Time marches on.
Bell tolls for you, Leo.
It does. And Cat is ringing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Ashes, of course, he's hysterical at Haiji being shot and has to be knocked out by Blanca to get him under control. This has happened, like, this is the second or third time they've had to do this to him.
They just keep, like, karate chopping people.
And of course, as this
Ash.
happens, it's like very slowly fading in the background, like the song, and it's like the fear of falling in love. And I'm like, when did this turn into a soap opera? Like, literally. I don't know.
So Blanca dresses Ash's wounds, and he comes to, then, like, he's still hysterical. Like, he pulls Blanca's gun out of his jacket and, like, points it at him, and he tells, like, everybody to get out and give him some privacy. And then Ash basically, God, they're such children in the show sometimes. He just throws a temper tantrum because he can't go see Haiji at the hospital, because if he did, then they would believe he's associated with gangs now. And then, like, after his tirade, he just passes out again.
He's like, leave me alone so I can be by myself. And then just, like, cries and is upset. This child.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is pretty childish. So, and then it goes outside the room, and Singh decides he can no longer side with Ash and work with him, since it was his men that shot Ash and Haiji. He also has Lau not to question him anymore, and because he thinks he will likely become like Ash's enemy or something like that, he basically just think he can work with him anymore. And then Ash eventually wakes up, and then he meets with Singh and Kane and their guys, and he doesn't even get a word out before Singh immediately apologizes. And he says, I know words aren't enough, and he wants a punishment. And he suggests he has a one-on-one with Ash in a week's time so he can heal. And everybody there, they know this is a death wish. He's going to die. And then, like, Lau steps in, and he makes some good points. He's like asking everybody why they can follow Ash when he only cares about Haiji. He doesn't care about them. Really good point.
I totally agree with him too. Like, Ash is like clearly hell-bent on one thing. Like, how can he be a great leader if he's only worried about Haiji at this point?
And there's nothing that's going to stop him from throwing all of them under the bus for Haiji.
Right.
Basically. So, and then, like, Lau's like, I'm quitting this gang, and he's like walks off and sings like he's not part of the gang anymore or something like that. He's like, good. And then Blanca, he returns to the mansion where Yutlong is, and like finds him getting drunk. And then Yutlong, he goes into his whole story, how his mother was acquired by his father at the age of 10.
Yeah.
His father was
fucked up.
his father was 65 at the time.
Oh, what an age gap.
Yeah. And so when Yutlong was 6, his father died. So his mother's 16. So the father died. Then his half brothers, for some fucked up reason, raped his mother and killed her in front of his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I think they just like to see how dark they can go sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, just imagine coming up with this shit.
Well, it makes sense why he hated his brother so much, though, now. Because, like, I kept wondering, like, what did they do to him? Because, anything they do to him, like, can't be as... I don't know. It had to be something they did to someone else, because you never get as angry from what people do to you as what they do to other people you care about. So it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and then it also boils down to, like, he's basically just really jealous of Ash because Ash has kind of found somebody to love and actually has a potential at happiness or something like that.
Right.
And then the next day, Blanca's like, I want to break my contract with you and go help Ash because he really needs my help now. He then does his best to convince Yutlong not to take Haiji from Ash by telling him his history. He basically was an emotionless nobody until he finally met Natasha and he learned of love. But the thing was, his government strongly disapproved. But he said, fuck him anyways. And even, like, her father got killed for political reasons at one point because of this. That didn't stop him. Then he had a mission, like, it was out of
I
think
the reason the government disapproved of it was because her father got killed for political reasons. Like, they're afraid that she's involved with political stuff because her father was, and that's why they disapprove of it.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That's what I got out of it anyway.
Makes sense.
I said, yeah, he left the country for this mission, and she was killed in a terrorist attack that he's not buying. He's pretty sure the government pretty much set it up.
Mm-hmm.
But then in the end, he parts with Yutlong and tells him there is somebody out there that will love you.
Which is such a bullshit
he kind of
line.
sees through it.
That's almost like something you tell someone after they've, like, confessed their love to you, and you're like, I'm not interested in you. Like, someone will love
but
you.
But there's surely somebody out there for you.
And then you
also,
leave.
They were able to fit an extra Ernest Hemingway reference into this episode because, like, as Blanca's packing up, he has the novel A Farewell to Arms packed in his suitcase, which that story very, like, closely parallels the story of him and Natasha. Basically, like, it's about a soldier who falls in love with, like, a nurse during World War I, and yeah, it like has a very similarly tragic ending as well. So
I
makes
almost
sense.
saw this as like Yutlong being like, listen, like I'm in love with you a little. I'm telling you all about myself, and him being like, I'm not interested, and like leaving. It was kind of depressing.
Yeah, pretty much.
And of all people to be more interested in, it's Ash.
Yeah.
So Blanca meets up with Ash, and as they're preparing to break everybody out of like the institute or whatever the place is, he offers his services, and like he starts off with like 50 million, and Ash is like, what? He's like, okay, $500 at a dinner. And then they get in a car together, and he takes Ash is like, where are you going? And what he does is he takes him to the hospital where Haiji is, and tells him what the police rounds are so he can sneak in and see Haiji. He gets in there, he's like over his bed, he's saying all this emotional stuff, and Eiji's like half conscious, and he's like, who was saying this? I can barely wait, I do recognize your voice. And like then Ash leaves, and Eiji stumbles out in the hall. And then, like, Ash goes to help him, but doesn't get quite to him until the detectives show up. And then Ash gets out of there, and Eiji's like, no. He grabs onto the detective. He's like, no, please, let him go. I love him. Oh, man. So then that's done and over with. Then the Colonel Fox guy is, like, talking with Dino, I watched it multiple times. I didn't really understand what Dino was saying, but he seems to know that Ash was coming the next morning at, like, 7 o'clock. Or something like that. It doesn't really matter anyways, because Ash and Jessica came up with a plan of their own. They went ahead and released the data to the public media instead of exchange for the hostages. They then ambush Dino as he's leaving the facility, and they take him hostage. And then they see this, and Fox tells the doctor to get all his data and as many samples of banana fish he can before they escape. And then Ash like marches in with Dino at gunpoint, and he demands their releases to the hostages. And Fox is like, oh, okay, well, this is my answer to you. And it's 2 shots to the chest, which are both right at his nips. So
that's true.
And then that's just how it ends with Dino getting gunned down. And there's blood coming from them. So they can't necessarily pull the, had a jacket
He's at
on.
least very badly injured, if not dead.
Yeah. That did surprise me that they killed off Dino. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, well, Fox has his own agenda, so
yeah.
Well, even Ash is like, what the fuck when he gets shot? Like, you see his face.
I know, he's like, I thought this would work. I thought I'd get my hostages back. Like,
yeah, well, Blanca told him, wow, this is a very high risk, but we'll see how it goes.
I was laughing at one point earlier in the episode when Ash is like, we can't allow like Eiji to be seen like a criminal, and it's like, Ash, Eiji's been like hanging around with your gang, shooting guns, like shit for like weeks now. Dude's a criminal, right? Like he may not have like killed 1 million people like you, but
he's even been arrested with them when they all got arrested when he killed. What was his fucking face? I don't even remember anymore.
Who knows? The body count is ridiculous at this point. It's like filling up like the Hudson River. So, also the title of this episode was "For Whom the Bell Tolls," which is another Hemingway novel.
A Metallica song. No?
Also a Metallica song based on this Hemingway novel.
Oh, that's cool.
It follows like an American reporter caught up in the Spanish Civil War, and the book ends like right as like this big final ambush is about to begin, kind of like this episode. And yeah, in many ways, like the main character of that novel, Robert Jordan, his relationship with this young Spanish woman named Maria during this like time of conflict seems to parallel Ash's relationship with Eiji as well. So it's like a good like parallel there.
His and fucking Blanca's, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
And I was just I just think it's ridiculous that they were able to get even more pedophilia into this show with like Yutlong's backstory with the 65-year-old father with his 10-year-old mother, and it's like, oh my god, this fucking show.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Well, like, okay, so he was 6 when his dad died. And his mom was 60. Right. Like, it's hard for a 10-year-old to give birth. Like, I don't know. That sucks to be her. Ugh. I mean, my great grandma was 12 when she started having kids, and it was like tough for her. So I can't imagine like a 10-year-old trying to have a kid.
Jeez, yikes.
That's tough.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, so next week the episode is like slightly longer, right, Leo? It's like 30 minutes, you said?
Yeah, it's 30 minutes. Like they needed an extra 6 or 8 minutes.
Okay.
So a lot.
Interesting.
Yeah, so synopsis is probably a little extra long next week. But yeah,
It's not
we'll
double
work our way
length.
through
Not
it.
exactly, Bcom. You kind of fucked up with that. You were
I
like,
heard it was like a double length, but apparently not.
yeah.
Yeah, you scared the shit out of me. I immediately went and checked. And I
Leo
was
like dropped
I'm
the
sitting-
food he was eating when you said that. He was like, "Fuck."
Yeah, I immediately went to Amazon Prime and I was like, oh, it's only 30 minutes. And that's what it said. And I even loaded the video to make sure it stayed at 30 minutes. Like I was extra worried.
Oh, man. All right. Well, let's move on to Zombie Land Saga.
Woo!
We got episode 11, A One-of-a-Kind Saga. And so, all right. Since we're just gonna skip over Yuugiri since she doesn't matter as a character.
This fucking bitches. Yuugiri is officially my favorite character, and they ruined it for her. They didn't give her a backstory. I'll never forgive them.
Like they sort of hinted some stuff in this episode,
I don't give
but
a
yeah, it's not
shit.
satisfying.
No,
Yeah.
it's not enough.
We want to hear about
what?
historical high-class prostitutes.
Exactly.
That's
Hell yeah.
gotta be a hell of a backstory.
I know.
Come on.
They better have at least a
God.
special episode where they go into her backstory, or by God, someone in that production team is going to get a visit that is very terrifying for them.
Yeah, we need a Yuugiri OVA real bad, for sure.
We do.
So, but we're focused on Sakura now. This is her arc. So Sakura awakens on the floor of the house on a rainy, dark night, and she doesn't know where she is. And she's greeted by Tai, who like scares the living shit out of her, like because she's being her zombie self.
So it's weird. She forgot everything she was when she turned into a zombie, but got her old memories back. So
Yeah.
Very convenient amnesia.
It's
crazy.
because I was like, wouldn't she just remember everything now? Like, why would she regress?
Right.
Like, it's dumb. It is dumb.
It's very weird. She like throws Tai against a wall and then stumbles into like the room full of like angry sleeping zombie idols who she trips over. And they're all like relieved to see her, but it's clear like she doesn't recognize them at all. And so the girls aren't sure what to do. And Sakura just like starts mumbling to herself about how like no matter what she does, she's not good enough. And then like Tai leaps at her like a rabid dog, and it like transitions to the next scene. And so Sakura wakes up again, this time next to Ai. And she recognizes Ai as an idol from like Iron Frill because like she remembers going to one of her shows.
She has those memories back, so that's it's interesting.
So like Ai explains to Sakura like you're dead, you're a zombie now, like we're all zombies, and like Sakura looks down at her like zombified hand and she sees flashes of that truck that she got run over by. And strangely, like, Kotoro's not around for any of this, having left for some business that morning. We'll see what that is in a little bit, kind of. It's clear Sakura remembers nothing since becoming a zombie and won't be able to perform with the others at the Arpino concert in front of like 500 fans. And she does have flashbacks of seeing Ai perform previously at that place, though. And she also remembers an envelope that she sent to ZLS Corporation Inc. for an audition, and we'll find out what that was about later. She's excited that she became an idol, but is convinced that like no matter what she does, it never works out, and she just ends up suffering. Meanwhile, this like very curious scene. So Kotoro's at a bar, and he's talking.
This is really interesting.
Yeah, it's really weird, this scene. He's talking with this bartender about the Zombie Land Saga project. It's kind of like getting behind the scenes here. And so he says like he remembers the original idea was something about manifesting great compassion and acting for the sake of man. And like as the bartender's saying to him, like Kotaro is like, oh yeah, that's from Hagakure, which is like a book on Japanese Bushido warrior code, which I guess Kotaro used to talk all about. And like the bartender says, whatever happens, like Kotaro needs to keep his hands off of Yuugiri because she helped the bartender out a lot in the good old days.
Well, I think
like,
they were trying to reference that he may be
yes,
a
zombie
Yamamoto.
himself.
Yeah,
he may
for sure.
No, the bartender. I think what they're trying to
you
say
think
is
so?
the bartender may be Yamamoto who wrote the book, and that
that's possible.
That
Yeah,
would
I guess.
mean that he is in the same time period as Yuugiri.
As Yuugiri. Oh, okay. Yes, that would make sense. Like, because like they definitely heavily imply he's a zombie. Like he's snacking on dried squid, and like he also is like the bartender like laughs to himself, and like when Kotaro tells him not to focus on the good old days, because like coming from Kotaro, apparently that's hilarious. Because like as we could like assume, Kotaro is really focused on the past and like bringing all these idols together. Like he's obsessed with it.
Happens next episode.
Yeah, because
that makes sense.
Because if you look up Hagakure and Yamamoto, like, so Yamamoto is the one who wrote Hagakure, and he was alive in the early 1700s, and that's the same time period that Yuugiri is like from in the show. So,
you know
that
what?
Makes sense.
I also think he's Lieutenant Tsurumi from Golden Kamuy because this is the same. This has to be the same voice actor. I can't find it anywhere. But
it might be. I don't know.
No, they're the exact same.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I know. I watched Golden Kamuy, and then I went to this one, and I went, "What? this is Lieutenant Tsurumi. He became undead. God, this dude's crazy as shit."
To be fair, he's basically undead in Golden Kamuy at this point.
Yeah, he basically already is.
It's that frontal lobe. That's how you become an undead zombie.
Yeah. Ultimate power unlocked.
Oh my god, that would be like zombie juice. Like he'd just have people just licking his face. Like, so delicious.
Yikes. Yuck.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Disgusting. So that
it
night,
wouldn't be unusual for him though.
No, nothing would be. The girls all go one by one to try and like cheer up Sakura, like trying to change her mind. Like first it's Saki, who in her usual way just like yells at Sakura and like slaps her across the face, which sends Sakura's head spinning, and it just keeps spinning and spinning. It's like Saki's like, stop it. She like grabs her head and stops it from spinning. But she gives up, and like Junko is next in like very Junko way. She just goes, can't really bring herself to say anything, and just leaves. I liked Lily's turn. She just goes and she acts all cute. They also keep like making excuses for like why they're leaving like the room. Like Lily's like, I'm gonna go look at the stars, and then like she goes to talk to Sakura, and Sakura's like, that's a cute star you have, and she like takes it from Lily and like puts it on her forehead, and she's like, as if to prove that like even if she puts this on her, like she still won't be cute no matter what. And she like throws the star at the floor like a shuriken, and like Lily is like really upset by all this, and like when you make Lily cry, like you've done a really like bad thing. Like you need to like think about your life decisions.
Of course, you would say that.
So like so like Yuugiri is up, and she puts on like full geisha courtesan garb, right?
Holy shit! Yes,
she's got like 6-inch high like sandal, like Geta sandals or whatever, is ridiculous.
I love how when she goes up into the like attic area, she's like, the best courtesan in the city is coming into the room, and it's like all dramatic, and it's like, oh no, it was wasted. Oh.
Yeah, she makes like this grand entrance to realize that Sakura's like gone. She already left.
Oh, no.
And then like Kotaro gets back to the house, and he sees like the entryway full of like zombie girls with red eyes, and like he's like startled, as you would of course be like to see that. He's like, why are you all awake? And so meanwhile, Sakura is out, and she's just walking around and sulking, and she thinks back to like all these horrible memories. Like, so in 3rd grade, she was assigned the part of Snow White in her school play, and she like practiced until she could like do it without any mistakes, and she was really good and excited. And then she got sick on the day of and missed out. Even though she had taken like her vaccine shots, she still got sick. In 4th grade, she was picked for the relay team for field day. And she was like training, and she was like the fastest in their grade, but then like on the day of the race she pulled a muscle in the opening ceremony, and then the same exact thing happened in 5th and 6th grade, which is hilarious.
Well, but I think
that's a dangerous opening ceremony.
I think what they're hinting at is not that like terrible things keep happening to her, it's that she has some sort of weird performance anxiety and like psychs herself out and like makes these things happen to her as like as a way out. Like, oh no,
I mean,
I'm
like,
sick.
In
I
any case, she
can't
has
do
horrible
it.
luck.
Like,
it's all bad luck.
No, because like the thing with the test, she's like, oh, and I had to help these ladies, and like then I was freaked out, and I'm like, no, you were having performance anxiety.
Kat, you're completely wrong. It's bad luck. I'm just telling you.
No, it's fun. You know, you just want to Pick a fight with me, Leo. You. Anyway, go on, Bcom.
So finally in middle school, like she sets her sights on getting into like a tough high school, and like this is the last like straw basically, like, and she gives up like everything in her life for studying, like her friends, like everything. And yet on the day of the exam, like in a funny way, like as she's on the way to the testing location, like all these old ladies just like need help like crossing the street and bullshit, and like she helps all of them, and then she's like so flustered by the time she gets to the test that she doesn't pass, and she doesn't get into the school she wanted to go to. And so Sakura can like only remember these bad memories and how she like decided to basically give up, and like we see her like laying on the couch eating potato chips, watching TV, and there's a show about Ai and like Iron Frill, her idol group, and like the interviewer basically asks Ai like, how can you like work so hard? And she basically says like the perfect thing for Sakura to hear, which is that like, I don't think making mistakes or failing is a bad thing. It's like something you have to overcome to be your best self, which is pretty good advice, honestly. And so, of course, Sakura is like really inspired by Ai, and she becomes a fan of hers. And Sakura thinks that even this time, when she tried so hard, she got like hit by a truck, though. Like this is when she like is like still back in the present, like thinking like it's sulking, and she became like a freaking zombie. Like the last time she thought she had it all put together. And she's like, how bad is my stupid luck? And so like the policeman finds her in this park on like the swings and like goes to help her before realizing she's a zombie and like pulling his gun. But luckily like Kotaro and Romero like arrive to like knock him out. And so Kotaro basically has to remind Sakura like who he is, because like he goes up there and she's like, who are you? And he's like, I'm Kotaro, damn it. Like, so at the end, like the emotional moment is like they go to like this overlook, and Kotaro points to this like Nijuno Matsubara forest, which is in Saga, and like it's all dark compared to like the rest of the town. And he's like, that's you right now, like you're real dark. And like, but I guarantee like each of these points of light like represents a person, and they want you to shine. And then he's like, well, at least like 2 or 3 people must feel that way, I think. And so like he basically asks her like, tell me honestly that you don't want to be an idol. And like Sakura flashes back to herself when she finally got excited to try to like one last time make her dreams come true, like with that envelope that she was sending to ZLS Corporation, obviously standing for Zombie Land Saga Corporation, like to audition. And she's like running downstairs, and she slips on her shoes, and of course she gets hit by the damn truck, and that's when she died. Like, it's horrible. And so she tells Kotaro, I'm done trying. Like, it's ridiculous. She's given up. And Kotaro tells her, like, if that's the limit of how you feel, then you can just go wherever you want. He like walks away, and she's like, yeah, I'm really worthless. And then he like comes right back.
It's awesome.
He's like, nah, just kidding. I'm not letting you off that easily. And he like yells at her, and he has like the most like ridiculous. He's like, I have this big, impressive,
oh my God, yes.
big thing.
Oh, no. Did you guys think that he was talking about his dick? Because I was like, is this a dick joke?
I mean,
well,
I did
it's
not
obviously
think of that.
what you're supposed to think
Yeah,
when he says
I've
this.
got
But
something big and impressive. I've got this big and impressive thing. I'm just like, okay.
And it turns out the big impressive thing he wants to say to her is that like, I will never abandon you. Because like he has what it takes, so it doesn't.
He
he's
has
like,
what
I
it
have
takes.
What it
His
So it
he
doesn't
and his
matter if
dick
you have
will
it.
never abandon her. So don't worry.
Exactly.
Don't worry, Sakura.
Which is probably what she needs. She needs that support, that like
She needs
undying
that
support. That's not how I meant it, Kat. God.
Now I'm just imagining her like leaning against a giant dick.
Oh my God.
what's wrong with you,
Way to
Kat?
ruin Zombieland Saga for everybody.
That was good.
So yeah, I'm excited to see how they wrap this whole thing up. Like, I don't know. Like, I wish we had more episodes to like focus on these individual characters, but Sakura's the main one. Obviously, we need to see how it plays out.
No, Yuugiri should be the main one. She's fucking awesome. She was robbed.
Okay.
She was robbed.
She was robbed. All right, let's move on to clearly the best anime ever made, Karakuri Circus.
Are you ready for me, guys, to mention
Oh God,
20
Cheerios?
new characters?
Let's get this
and-
over with. Holy shit, this episode.
And you know how our goal is to make things more understandable? Don't expect that with this episode.
Yeah.
Tell me about the Cheerios, Leo. I want to know more about the Cheerios. Every time they said Shirogane-O's, I kept thinking of Cheerios the entire time.
Jesus. Okay, Karakuri Circus, episode 11, fanfare.
All right, here we go.
Just going into this episode, I'm just thinking this synopsis, Jesus Christ, good luck. It's it is the most ridiculous, haphazard introduction of a new arc and characters I've ever
terrible.
seen.
Well,
It's a train wreck.
Line, not intentionally. We meet a large group called Shirogane-O's.
I'm just imagining they should come out of a cereal box. A giant cereal box should just land.
I literally got tears from laughing from this. This is so stupid.
It's so ridiculous. They just this episode started and I was like, did we miss 13 episodes
I felt
of this
like
show?
that. I was like, did we miss something?
Because what chapter did this end on that you found out?
I was reading on Reddit that this episode ends on chapter 173 of the manga, and we are 11 episodes in.
Holy fuck!
It's oh my god.
Yeah, they skipped some shit.
Unbelievable.
That makes a lot of sense because I feel like
they
were trying to explain a lot of things in a very small amount of time, and they just shat all over it. This is
incredible.
This is the explosive diarrhea of plot, basically.
Hype.
Oh, man. So they're getting ready to take out the Midnight Circus because they have found their HQ. They know of the HQ because Tsurumi, Lucille, and Ningxia met a Shirogane dog that tracked Pantalone's scent back to it. Conveniently. While they're also looking at the HQ circus here, the rest of the Shirogane-O's and Shirogane's, they all just parachute in or something like that. It's crazy. But then we get to visit our old assassin friend, Ashihana, who I haven't seen for a while. And he's gone into retirement, but is very bored and unsatisfied with his life of no more assassinating. And then suddenly two guys burst into the room yelling about being swindled, and they punch him. And then he's like, oh yeah, this makes me feel more alive. And then suddenly a large spinning ball bursts into the room and takes out the guys. But it's one of the Shirogane-O's. His name is George Laroche. He has come to take Ashihana with him because he knows he is bored. Of course, Ashihana asks, he's like, well, how much are you going to pay me to do this? So still the old Ashihana. Oh, Jesus. There's now a new character in the show called Fatima.
Who just looks like Middle Eastern Shirogane.
Yeah, pretty much.
Basically.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, so just accept it. I had to. We also learned what makes the Shirogane-O's different from the Shiroganes. Dude, the information dump in this episode is just insane.
The explosive diarrhea plot. I already said.
What they are former Shiroganes that had their bodies transformed into machines by the faceless colonel and can fight without using puppets. There's another new character who only survived 10 minutes into the show, and I'm not even going to bother with a name. Walks into the tent and issues a game of 1-on-1 to see who is the strongest. Dottore
is the Italian.
Okay, promptly comes back with their head and says they accept their game and to go ahead and choose their teams. Which is pointless because they choose their team and then 20 other people go in with them. I don't know what the hell. And that dog just shows up at one point later on. I'm like, when were you with them?
I was just laughing my ass off at the team too, because half of this team is people we have never met before and have no idea who the hell they are.
All right, let me butcher some names here. The members they choose is Lucille, Fatima, Rockenfield, Timbavati, Tor, Narumi, and Minxia. After she insists
the only
on
ones
going.
we know are Lucille, Narumi, and Minxia before this episode.
Have
who we met 3 minutes ago.
Have we discussed Minxia's weird face distortion thing?
No.
What?
The thing where he's like, my face goes weird and pulls down his face.
Oh, that's not Minxia. That guy is
That's faceless. He's faceless. That's the faceless guy.
That's what his name is? Yeah, I didn't even write down his name.
He's the faceless colonel. Early on, I didn't know who Faceless was. It's later in the episode. Do they finally refer to him as Faceless Colonel? I don't know if they did in the intro.
They did not, because I was waiting for a long time to figure out what that guy's name was.
In the intro that like if they did, I missed it.
They skipped over it.
I just confused the two then because I was like, who the fuck is this guy who keeps pulling his face down? I don't know.
That's Faceless Colonel. It's referenced way late in the episode.
Okay.
So weird. God, they're rushing so ridiculously. It's insane.
It's bad.
Oh, I'm not done with the names. I got about 4 more before this this paragraph is also. So they go to the tent, and then some guy named Zed who just barges into the tent with them because he like takes out 2 of the guys before the crowd like chants for merry-go-round Olsen to be the next opponent, and like he basically wears a merry-go-round on his head and it spins and his blades pop out and kills Zed with it.
Zed's dead, just like in Pulp Fiction.
Zed's dead. And then some complete rando female comes out of nowhere to challenge him next and gets killed immediately.
Yeah.
What? Did she even get a name? Did she even get a name? I don't know.
Maybe she does in the manga. I don't know.
In the manga, yeah. But she has a screen time of like 25 seconds before she's dead. That was it.
No, it was a very meaningful death, Leo. You just didn't understand.
Oh my god. So Narumi goes next because the Shirogane-Os, not the Shirogane-Os, don't get him wrong, want to see what he can do, which is, it kind of stuns both sides, really, because he's just easily beating this guy. And Fatima, who seems to be a little bit infatuated with Narumi, and Minxia run forward at one point because they thought Narumi was in trouble, but they get stopped short by the Acrobat brothers, Orazio and Pedrolo.
Yeah,
they begin
like
the
these
third
guys,
round.
honestly.
Well, they think they understand women, but apparently not.
Oh God, yeah.
Lucille does give some of her blood to Minxia, so she has like some immunity to the laughing disease. So
she's kind of upset about it though, because she's like, I don't want to be an immortal. Like, how dare you? And she's like, well, 1 drop of blood won't make you immortal.
Yeah,
You're fine.
I didn't
I'm
give
like,
you
all
enough.
right.
Yeah. So while Narumi is still fighting Olsen, the girls begin their fight with the brothers and realize they need to get the 2 separated because they have really good teamwork. They do concoct a plan where Minxia hides in Fatima's puppet, Spinatina.
Yeah.
Like, she pops out and like breaks her fingers so they can't like hold together anymore. And then like, this is like, God, what was the first one? If a girl doesn't like disgusting things, and then they lick their face or something. And then the second one is like, girls don't like having their clothes stripped. And I was like, could you come up with even better excuse just to strip their fucking clothes off?
So I was really pissed at this until they turned, like, I had written down like an angry comments to like talk about how like they rip their clothes off.
Plague, yeah.
But at least they turn it back around where the girls use it against them. So I was like, all right.
Girls would be too embarrassed to fight, but the girls like totally fake it. And it takes them, they get them completely off guard and they just kill the 2. And then Narumi finishes up his shit with Olsen.
Right.
Dottore declares the Shirogane the winners of this stage and opens the floor, dropping into the second stage where they presented with 2 doors. One of which, he says, would lead them to their symbol, Francine.
Which, of course, they're not going to pick the right door. Let's be honest. Man. Like, this episode was just wildly rushed and felt disjointed and unnatural, and like we missed like an arc or like 2 arcs of setup, and it just feels crazy at this point.
It's a mess.
So what's interesting, I got this first paragraph done.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I'd realized this is fucking insane, and I actually stopped and like did something else for the next 2 hours because I was like, this is going to be a nightmare. And it was.
Yeah,
this was an
nightmare,
absolute nightmare. This, oh man, I really had high hopes for this series at the beginning.
Me too, yeah.
Really worried at this point. Really, really worried.
Like, do you remember when this show used to be about Masaru and like Shirogane protecting him from his family who are trying to go after his inheritance? Because I remember that show.
Yeah, and Shirogane and Narumi being like his surrogate parents in the process. And like, it really is neat. And we're not even talking about that anymore.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, obviously, we can all assume that Narumi and them will be reunited at some point, and I hope it's sooner rather than later, because, like, this side stuff with like Narumi going off on his own and like fighting this crazy battle. Like, I'm sure it's interesting, but they just did not take the proper time to set it up and make us care about it, basically. I don't know.
Well, I mean,
It's
usually
weird.
it takes a shonen anime like 50 to 100 episode to get this disjointed, right? Like all shonens get there eventually, but like this, it's almost like they fast forwarded to the disjointedness, and I'm like, why? Like, you know?
Yeah. It feels so early for them to be fighting the Midnight Circus. Like, you would think that would be something that would come way later in a shonen show. Like,
Yeah, they're going to have 36 episodes. They have time. So,
yeah,
like,
so we can assume they're going to lose this battle with the Midnight Circus.
Or another greater evil pops up somehow.
I suppose, yeah.
I mean,
almost
we don't really we don't know the exact fate of Jin, do we? We just kind of assumed
No, yeah.
that the whatever Francine killed him or whatever that popped
So
up.
do you think
Probably.
that this shonen was like Naruto sized and they're trying to fit it into 36 episodes and that's why this is happening?
It's something like 450 chapters long. Yeah, it's a very long shonen, and they're basically trying to fit 450 chapters into 36 episodes, or at like 173.
Oh, it's
in
already
11.
failing. It's not doing good.
Yeah, so it's a mess. Hopefully they can bring it back around and get some semblance of like continuity, but like it's looking bad right now. So, but speaking of things that are not looking bad and are well written, let's talk about Bloom Into You.
I mean,
What are you talking
it's
about?
not looking good. It's not looking bad, but
I enjoyed this episode though. I don't think it was like a crazy episode. It didn't blow me away, but I enjoyed it.
Well, it has one of Kat's favorite things, and that's fireworks.
Wait, what is it? I didn't hear you.
fireworks.
Fireworks.
Oh, fireworks,
God,
yes, it
more
does have
fucking
fireworks.
Dude, when that came up, I was like, Kat's gonna rant. This is gonna be good. But
Why
we'll
must
have to
they
wait till Bcom
always?
gets there.
Yeah.
Fireworks symbolism. All right, so episode 11 is called Centroid of the Triangle and Lit Fuse.
What does Centroid of the Triangle mean, Bcom?
So Centroid of the Triangle is basically referring to the parts of the episode where there are the three girls sleeping in the one room and Touko is in between them. She is the center of that triangle, that love triangle. So that is basically what it's referring to. I don't know why centroid is a weird word. I don't never used that before, but whatever.
I had to Google it. I was like, is this really a thing or what?
It would just be like the center focus of something, I assume. But yeah. Yeah. So, or the center point of a...
Yeah, it's the point where all three medians intersect and is often described as a triangle's center of gravity.
Oh, okay. Makes sense.
Yep.
So the study camp begins with the student council going through a script reading of their play with Koyomi's there. She's looking on. And it's basically as they described, with like Touko playing the main character who's in the hospital with amnesia, being presented with three different versions of what she's supposedly like from the three different characters who are close to her. And the play currently ends with her acting out all three paths, and then she eventually just chooses to become this like crybaby who is dependent on her lover. Like that's the character she chooses to become. And so Koyomi's not sure if this is like the correct ending for the play. She's like torn up about it. She doesn't know.
I was watching this. I'm like, man, this is just like story inception or something like this. Like,
yes,
Kano's story is like written like to like really reflect the story they're telling right now. But like the thing is, she's kind of unaware, but like she's so on the nose. It's like,
yeah, she's so
whoa.
right. It's like scary.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah. So, and yeah, we'll get back to that inception. But yeah, apparently this study camp is actually on the school grounds because they're like rehearsing in the student council room. Like I had thought like they said in the previous episode, like the school has this lodge that you can stay at for study camps. And I didn't realize it was going to be like just at the school. I thought it was going to be like somewhere else for some reason. But
well,
yeah,
they also have a random club room in the woods.
yeah, it's true.
So I mean,
it's a weird school.
Let's have another weird random building.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the girls get ready to go take like a bath before bed, but Sayaka is like feeling real unsure of whether she can handle seeing like Touko naked in a bath. She's bathed in public before, but seeing the girl she has a crush on naked might be too much for her to handle. but her fear of leaving Yu alone with Touko and the bats like overrides her fear of like overreacting to Touko, and so she goes with them. And so they go, and like Yu is like really fast to just like strip down, and like the other girls are kind of surprised. We get her like Yu's inner monologue is like how she like feels she needs to make the first move and concentrate on not tipping off either of the others, basically. And like Touko, meanwhile, is surprised by Yu's chest size and just barely holds it in. Like she almost makes some like regretful mistakes, let's say, in the bath, but she holds it back.
You know, there was a shot from the last episode where she was laying on the bed and she's so boyish looking.
Yeah, and even in this episode, like when they're going into the baths, I was like, oh, Yu's like the flat-chested one. And then they get into the baths, and Toko's like, oh, her chest is so big. And I'm like, what? What happened? This is so weird.
Maybe she's just really good at camouflaging her boobs. Like, if you wear the right bra.
My next thing was, is she just like really strapping them down that tight?
She's a grower, not a shower.
I don't think that works for boobs.
So, they get back to the room, and Toko's futon is in the center of the room between Yu and Sayaka. Perfect positioning, obviously. And so the girls all think to themselves about like the situation. So like Sayaka's first, like she's wondering like if she was alone, if she'd be able to hold herself back from reaching out to touch Touko, like who she's so close to right now. She could basically just reach out and touch her, but she knows she'd never be able to get close to her again if she tried it, so she has to hold it in. And so Toko's thinking similar things about Yu, where she's like, I wish I could see her sleeping face, but I know if I saw it, I couldn't hold back. And then Yu finally wishes like she could like maybe reach out and touch Touko, but she knows she can't with Sayaka there. So they're basically all at a stalemate / kind of relieved that the three of them are all there, so this doesn't all escalate into things that they don't necessarily want to happen. So it's...
Yep.
The next day, that former student council member, Tomoyuki Ichigaya, comes to watch their rehearsal. And Touko remembers him as Yuki-kun. That was like his nickname back when he was a classmate of her older sisters. And she remembers him like coming over their house with the other council members for like student council stuff when she was a little girl. And he seems really excited to like help make the play a success. And so like the next day, the council are all like practicing singing with him, like by reciting like hiragana sounds, like ki, ke, ku, ki, like, and they translate this as do, re, mi, which I guess is like the closest thing. It's kind of funny though. And so as Touko runs down, wait, what's Kat?
It is a little funny. Like it's cute.
I watched The Sound of Music on Christmas Day, and so I had Do Re Mi on the mind too. So I laughed at this.
I've never watched it.
That's a really good movie.
You should watch it, Leo.
Still holds up.
Oh my god, a movie that
really
Leo
fun.
hasn't watched. That's a classic. We have to make a big deal out of it now. Bcom gasp that he hasn't seen this.
Leo, it's only a short 3 hours long with an intermission in the middle of it.
Jesus Christ.
So, as Touko runs down some equipment they'll need for the play, Ichigaya comments on how responsible she's being and how he thought student council presidents just sat back and let everyone else do the work, which like really takes Touko aback. She's surprised to hear him say this. And like before she can ask him what he means, like the guys get the idea. These stupid guys like Seiji and what's the other guy's name? Dojima.
Mm-hmm.
Like this comes up in every anime. Come on.
It was so dumb though. Like they ask Riko like, "What's your relationship with Ichigaya?" Like and they're just like, "We're the same members. Like the members of this theater troupe together. That's it." And like obviously we know Riko's relationship and that she wouldn't be into Ichigaya. And Ichigaya is like, "Well, I'm in a relationship as well," and just calls them idiots, which they basically deserved.
Yeah, they do.
And so, as Ichigaya leaves that night, Touko goes to see him off, and because she's had this on her mind the whole day, and she asks him like, "What was my sister like when she was the student council president?" And so he doesn't like sugarcoat it. He basically says like she was always shirking off work onto the other council members and like taking credit for it and getting the publicity. And like one time she even like forced them to like help her finish her summer homework. Like she like sat them all down to the table and she's like, "I didn't get my summer homework done. let's all help me get this done. It's like, holy shit. Like, despite this, like, they all seem to really like her, Ichigaya still said. Like, even though she was flawed. And so, like, Touko's view of her
really
perfect sister is, like, damaged.
Yeah, that was really fascinating to hear, like, the differences. And it also, once again, reflects the play they're doing. How, like, everyone has different views of who that person. Yeah, and it is. I was like, oh my gosh, what is this going to do to... Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, the way that Touko reacts to this is the most interesting part because she's so thrown off, and like Yu notices that when like Touko seems off when she comes back, and like Touko like thinks to herself like when she looks at Yu like looking at her with concern that she just wishes she could like melt in Yu's arms, but she's also afraid that that well of kindness that Yu provides her will like dry up if she pushes her too far, and so everyone else starts playing with these like fireworks streamers. And then like that, like, by the way, Miyako, again, best girl, urged Riko sensei to bring with her. Miyako's the best girlfriend ever. She's so awesome. And so Sayaka goes over to Touko, who she sees like hanging out on the side with like some like smaller like little sparklers, the one that Kat thinks are like the most boring thing in the world, which is she's not
stand
wrong.
there and just hold it and watch it do thing. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. It's dumb.
But the symbolism.
Fire is not your affinity then.
Kat is not part of Fire Nation.
No.
Definitely not.
No.
And like she's like, even Sayaka's like, yeah, these are more our speed because we're so much older than the other ones. They're like a year older. They're like 2 years at the most. But she also correctly figures out that Ichigaya told Touko something about her sister. And Touko tells Sayaka that like the person Ichigaya talked about like sounded nothing like the sister she knew. And obviously, like Kat said, this is in parallel with the plot of Koyomi's play. And Sayaka even knew about this, though. She, like, apparently looked into the past of the student council and kind of found out that Touko's sister wasn't really, like, the perfect paragon of, like, everything that, like, everybody thought she was. And so Touko tells her, like, I don't mind that you know that, and, like, thanks her for looking out for her. And throughout this entire scene, like, Sayaka, I felt, was sort of, like, on a precipice, like, really going out on a little bit of a limb talking about Touko's sister, which is a very touchy topic for her. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of represented by that sparkler, which it keeps going out, and she keeps having to like relight the flame with like a candle. And like, yeah, as when Touko like thanks her at the end, like it starts burning really brightly, and Sayaka's like looking at her, and you can tell like her like love for her is like just sparkling like crazy at this moment.
Yeah,
because she feels like they've gotten this like intimate moment together that is really important and unique to her, and so she feels like it's a big win, basically.
So this episode, I just kept thinking about different ships and like what I wanted to happen. And at first, I kept thinking,
I can understand that.
Yeah, because I was a little bored at parts, and at one point I was like, Seiji needs to end up with someone. This needs to be a thing. Hold on, my cat is being stupid.
But he's like,
stop it.
He's complete. Right. Oh, it's okay.
Cats.
Yeah, cats are
dumb. But the thing about Seiji, he's like completely asexual though. Like he's different from you. Like
I don't know. Like I think I don't know if you can say he's asexual. He just hasn't found love yet. Like I think that there's a chance that like in the very end of a series they'll be like, oh, this person, I love them, and and I thought about
it's possible.
Seiji and Suguru, because like Suguru is hot as fuck, and so like Suguru needs to end up with someone, and like
Suguru's an idiot though. That's his problem.
But like Seiji is so smart, so like I feel like Suguru and Seiji would complement each other because Seiji could just like help Suguru not be so stupid, and they would be cute together.
That's true.
But then I also thought that Seiji and Koyomi would be a good ship because like they're both really smart and interesting, and that might be a good dynamic.
And Koyomi is like really emotionally sensitive and intelligent, and she could maybe figure out Seiji in a way that would be interesting.
So that was my thought. But then if Seiji and Koyomi end up together, then like Suguru needs to end up with that older guy, the theater guy. What's his name? Ichi.
Oh, yeah.
Ichi something.
Ichigaya. But he's dating someone, he said.
Well, but like
Sayaka?
secretly,
Who's she
you're gonna find out that he's gay, and like that was just his cover story. Was that he was dating someone, and like Suguru is gonna fall into this like forbidden romance with an older man. And it's going to be interesting. So those are my two shipping.
That is the question, Leo. What happens with Sayaka? I don't know. We'll have to find out. But like, I assume she doesn't win. I assume Yu is going to win this love triangle.
The way that will work. So, and then Sayaka will be sad. Yeah.
But maybe she'll find love with somebody else.
I think the better story would be about Riko and Mia, who have their shit figured out.
I really like them a lot.
Yeah, I would like a side story. I love a whole
anime about them.
Yeah, I would like a side story about them. That would be nice. But yeah, this episode was boring, so I did a lot of like shipping, like side shipping.
Yeah, it was really like I found everything about Touko's sister's like past interesting in this episode, but that was really the only interesting part. So I'm curious to see how that plays out.
Yeah, that was interesting.
2 more episodes to go.
Yeah. You know what? Next episode better be like fucking lit. Otherwise, they're not gonna have time.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying. So hurry up.
That's true.
Bloom.
It's the second to last episode, so it should be lit.
Yeah, it's 13 episodes, so they still got 2 more to go.
You're right, though. They have to pick it up. So thank you for listening. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe to us on YouTube and on the podcast feed to get updates on new podcasts or videos. You can also find our podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and Stitcher. Or follow us on Twitter at Nerdom and Other for updates as well. Also, check out our Discord. There's a link to join in the YouTube description and the podcast feed description.
Yeah.
And check out the podcast network we have joined, Anime Radicals, which should have some new content coming in January, but there's still like 5 podcasts up if you haven't listened to them yet that are there to check out. And they're all pretty cool. So with that, we will see you next time.
Yeah, see ya.
Peace.
Bye.
Yep, see if I don't get murdered.